welcome, Carson parents. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching this video tonight. The whole purpose of this video is to bring something to you that we normally do in a live presentation, but with that, only a few people are able to attend. With this, anyone interested can pull it up, watch it, forward to the area that suits you or that requires your attention or any part that you want to learn more about. So the whole goal of tonight is to share some of the things that I teach my strategies for success students. But instead of teaching them to your kids, I'm teaching them to you so you can then in turn help guide them and teach them some of these strategies. Alrighty, so first of all, let's make sure that you have your booklet handy. It should look just like this little spinning thing over here in the corner. So you ought to have all of your materials there. And then I officially welcome you to what I lovingly refer to as my classroom, which is the House of Mac. So all right, so now that you're here, let me introduce myself. My name is Kelly McCoy Williams. All of my students refer to me as Miss Mac. And here at Rachel Carson Middle School in Fairfax County, I teach three different classes. I teach a pre-algebra math class. I teach an algebra readiness elective to help seventh graders get ready for algebra. And then I teach the class that has brought me to you today, which is strategies for success. It's a bunch of different things I teach in this class. We kind of group them all, and they're put under the umbrella of executive functions, but they pretty much look like this, or at least the focus of my classroom looks like this. We talk about how to represent yourself, how to regulate yourself, how to use self-control, how to organize in different areas, how to be better problem solvers, how to refine that focus. And then one of the biggest issues for most middle schoolers is how to get better at planning and managing their time. The whole goal of the class is for everyone to analyze themselves, figure out where they need help, and then try to be the best version of themselves that they can be. So let's see if we can imagine what your student is doing in my class, in other classes, even at home. Is it organization? Is it a little extra help in organization that could take them to a whole nother level? Is it totally their focus? Do they lose focus, starting one thing and then going to another, going to another? I suffer from the exact same thing. Next thing, big deal. There are major pitfalls with studying, with work habits, recording their assignments. These are major pitfalls that middle schoolers fall into coming out of elementary school. They just somehow get the idea that they don't need to do it. They don't need to write things down. Or they start thinking, oh, I'm a little bit older. Let me stay up all night. Let me leave some things at home. I'm sure I can remember it. A lot of different pitfalls that we want them to avoid. Is it the study skills, or is it really their planning and time management? So out of all the things that we just saw in our previous slide, these are the major areas that we are focusing on in this video. We're trying to help them be more organized, help you help them be more organized, more focused, avoid some pitfalls, get some really great tips for study skills, and then learn what it is to be a better planner and a time manager. And yes, there are times when life gets a little blurry. So yes, we need to adjust our focus. I know I do it when my glasses getting too messed up and I realize that I have aged just a little bit more and those eyes are not working quite as well as they used to. I go get new glasses. Well, for our middle schoolers, it may not be that easy. We may actually need to take them through the steps of how to hone their focus. So let's start with this activity. You know that you're going to have drivers soon, correct? We are right there in that time frame. Within 2 to 4 years, we are going to have drivers, or you're going to have drivers on your hands. What would you tell your soon to be brand new driver never, ever, ever, ever to do when they're driving? I would hope you tell them to take the hoodie off. I tell them in my classroom because I don't understand how you learn with anything over your ears. Next thing, sleeping, daydreaming. Would you send your driver out there hooded up and asleep at the wheel? I don't think so. Next, you would tell them cut down on the music. You can have it, but it shouldn't be so loud that you can't think or hear anything going on around you. What about having a pile of kids? That's why learner's permit they don't allow you to have a whole bunch of kids your age in the car while you're trying to figure it out. Would you encourage them maybe not
to be completely illegal and drive with a cell phone. There are a lot of adults that somehow haven't gotten that memo not to drive with the cell phone in their hand. Earbuds. It should absolutely not be in their ears. How in the world would you hear the ambulance coming or the fire truck beaming down the road? And of course, you would tell them not to speed in your vehicle. Not only is it dangerous, it's definitely something that could stop and get you a ticket. So you would tell them to eliminate those things that are distractions. Veer away from the pitfalls and eliminate your distractions. And there would be no excuses because those little keys that they want so badly would never get in their little palms. So now, if we're talking about the major three steps for focus, one, we need to help them identify their distractions. What are their distractions? My students admit it right away. Their cell phone. Their cell phone, because everything in their life is going through that cell phone. They talk to their friends. They're on TikTok. They're uh, pulling down their music, making playlists. They're Snapchatting and Instagram. They're just doing everything on that phone. So the phone was their major distraction. It was top number one in every class. Next one was TV. Too much TV, too much Netflix. If they turn it on, they think it's going to be background information. Boom, their whole focus is on the TV. Number three was a tie between video games and sleeping. You're just so distracted by your bed. You just wish to crawl in it and then go to sleep. That and video games. Those were the top ones, one, two, and the shared number three positions. So once they've identified those distractions, now you need to eliminate them. If you're trying to focus, you have to eliminate them. It doesn't mean you can never pick them up again, but not now, because now I'm trying to focus. And in doing so, you're helping to create a focused environment for your student. At least at home, they can set up an area totally free of distraction to study, to review their information, to do their homework, to prepare for a test, to pack their backpack for the next day, to sit out and organize their folder. They just need a place that is totally geared to them being focused. That's the first major step.
How do we teach them to do it? How do we do it? So, first, we can start with something pretty great, which is remind them that they already know how to do it. When it comes to sports, video games, TikTok, somehow they really have no problem being focused. So they're able to do it. They just haven't learned how to apply their focus when it's something they love to do to something that they may not be that thrilled about doing, or something that's not in their wheelhouse, or something that's difficult. So we just need to teach them how to take what they're already doing, use that prior knowledge, and then apply it in an area where they haven't used it before. It's an amazing thing when you think of all of the athletes that were ADHD and have difficulty focusing as children, but now through their young life and now into an adulthood, they have found a way to be super humanly focused. For instance, Michael Phelps and Simone Biles, both children that managed ADHD not so easily in the beginning, but have found a way to turn what may look like a disability to others into a superhuman skill, a superhuman strength. So we just need to teach them that it's there. They just need to pull it out, dust it off, and refine it, or get better at when they're using it and how they're using it. First thing they can do is create a really good learning environment. So that may not be as easy in school to control, but at home, it's super easy. They can have reduced or not have the people around them that cause them to lose their focus. If you ask my classroom, the top three issues, distractions, their friends, their social media, any type of internet, cell phone, all of it, sleeping, and the other video games. So then those things shouldn't be in your learning environment. We were just talking about how to move that focus and get everything moved out of the way that is causing you a distraction. That takes discipline. But if you can start with that, teach them to start with that. If it's your phone, then take the phone, turn it off, maybe put it out of the bedroom, Create an area where you go on a regular basis. It's your safe spot to study. And when you go there, you're kind of cueing your brain in that it's time to study. So now that little process I call in my classroom PEP, which stands for pre-engagement, posture, and preparation. Now, what that looks like in my class is that they sit up straight. Just to give you a little example of that, this is what they look like before. So this was a picture taken back in virtual times, and I had them do what they're never allowed to do in my classroom. All of that. And then I say, where's your pep? They sit up straight. They are focused. Their eyes are on me. Their pencil is in their hand. And that's something that we can trigger ourselves to do. That's just training your brain. Now, we do it all the time in sports because we use on your mark, get set, go. Exactly. So that's your brain and your body working together, and they've been trained to do that. So we can do that. They just need to come up with a trigger, a routine, something that cues their movements, their brain, and just keep doing it over and over again and creating a routine. It doesn't have to be my pep. Sit up, push a chair and head up, pencil in your hand, roll your shoulders back 3 times. That's my version of pep I use. But each student can come up with their own. As a matter of fact, they should come up with their own. And then it could be 3 movements, 3 words, anything that triggers their brain that it is time to focus. Okay, so if organization is where your kid is flailing about a little bit, then let's talk about the different areas where they might be disorganized. It could be at their home, right? Under the bed, it might be something scary under there, and no parent wants to put their hand under there because you don't know what's living under there. And then that causes them stress because they don't have what they need when it's time to go to soccer or to hockey or to football or basketball or school because it's somewhere living under that no man's land under the bed. Maybe it's at home where they need to get things a little more tidied up so it doesn't slow them down. Or it could be here at school, their backpacks, their lockers. You should see the level of NBA level hip checking going on to slam the locker door shut because it's so stuffed out of control with papers and binders and backpacks that are pushing out and protruding and forcing the locker door to jam because they're completely unorganized, some of them, when it has to do with their backpacks and their lockers. Some backpacks, I've seen kids reach their hands and they come back with things on them, slimy things, gooey things, last week's lunch. Sometimes they just need to stop and get all that situated because they're going to lose things or destroy things, mess up projects, lose a quiz squished under a nasty banana. All kinds of things this disorganization can lead to. Or maybe it's their binder. At the beginning of the year, I have all of my strategies for success kids bring their binders in. Bring them in. Let's take everything out. What are you carrying around the building every day? Some kids had 2 to 3 binders. Some had 6. 6 different binders to take with them everywhere. You're not going to make it. That's too much. You're going up and down the hallway with 6 binders and a laptop and your charger hanging from behind you down the hallway. No, all these kids in the hallway, you're going to get pushed. You're going to drop. Everything's going to spill. It's going to cause anxiety, stress. You're going to lose things. So maybe we just need to start with the materials. What do you have? What are you carrying? I know that there are students that like to have an A day and B day and parents that like to set up an A and a B day. I am not a fan of it. I am a fan of whatever gets all of their things in one place. So I love those flexible binders. They behave as if they are notebooks, but they look like a spiral notebook, but they're bendable and hard plastic, but they behave like a binder. You can open the binders, close it, put things in, numerous folders in there. So there's more than enough room for all of their classes in there. That's what I suggest to all of my students to use or something similar. Just try to stay away from A and B unless you're super organized. If you're super organized, great. You won't ever fall into the, oh no, it's an A day and I need to do my A homework, but I left my A day folder in the locker at school because it's B day. Okay. So my whole point is you can't ever use that if you don't have that. If you just have one binder, one spiral bendable that acts like a binder thingy, and you have all of your subjects in one place, it's less to keep track of and it helps you become more organized. My opinion. Alrighty, moving on. Now, the next area of organization is not necessarily in their room or using their materials or even things, period. It's taking their information and using their information, taking the information that they get and using two things that we're going to learn about a little bit tonight: your learning style and the type of notes. Consider the type of notes in your learning style and then match them in a way that works for you better so that you are more interested in taking notes. They're more fun to do. And then, of course, if it's more fun and it's more interesting, you might just look at it more than one time. And that's the goal. It'll help you learn faster. It'll be an easier, more delightful thing to do as opposed to a drudgery or a chore. All righty. So let's go to the next thing. Just a quick review on how to wrap this up. So there's a couple of areas. One, I want you to think about, do they need to organize their stuff? Do they need to organize their tasks? What I mean by that is, are they writing down? Are they organized throughout the day? Are they using their binder, using a digital system? In my classroom, we use Google Keep. It's in their Chromebooks. Are they using something to organize their tasks, a to-do list? If in Google Keep, I have my students set up an A and a B day, and then all the classes for A, all the days for B. They write in their homework. You can click it, it checks off, moves it to the bottom of the list, but it gets in their mind the idea of using some type of organization to write their assignments, get their projects done, tasks, reminders for homework, something. But they need to find a way to organize their tasks. And strangely enough, that is the biggest mountain to climb in middle school. For some reason, they think they can just all keep it right here, and there's never a need to write it down until they end up with 5 missing assignments. Next thing, organizing that knowledge, which will lead us to how to take notes and how to pull it together, when to use Venn diagram, when to use two column, when to use what. So finally, once we figure out, say we're dealing with their stuff, they need to spread it all out, figure out what is it that needs to get organized. If it's their binder, put everything out. Take all those loose leaf papers. You should see the loose leaf that they stuff in binders and computers. Looks like everyone has signed up to be a member of the loose paper crew with loose papers flying everywhere. Have them sit it out, and then figure out what is it and what is going to go where. Set up the places for everything. And then once they set it up, that can't be all. It has to be that on a regular basis, they monitor and maintain. Every return period, or every second, third return period, or once a week, or every Friday evening, every Saturday morning, or whatever, they stop, monitor, and maintain. Is my notebook still organized? Can I still see light under my bed? Is it safe to put my hand in my backpack? So just get them used to that. Break it out, set up your places, and then monitor and maintain. It can be a pretty easy routine once they get used to it. Okay, so now we're talking about organizing information. All different types. Two column notes created by Cornell University and a great study tool. Venn diagrams, perfect for comparing and doing comparisons. Timelines, perfect for sequential chronological events, whether it be a novel, historical facts, a timeline on what happened when. Three column notes created by Harvard University, fantastic for the question and answer, but then let's go deeper and let's add that critical thinking. So questions, answers, or topic, detail, and then how did it connect with you? I love three column notes because it's more than just answering the question and just spitting out the answer or spitting out what was given to you in a video. It's you engaging your brain and trying to see if there's a connection. What do you feel about it? Do you agree? Do you not? Charts and tables, fantastic in all different areas. Specifically, in my mind, science and math. Flow charts are great for those two things because you're showing this happens, then that, then that, then that. Perfect for that. So why not take notes that way? A graphic organizer webbing, this slide itself is an example of a webbing, one subject in the middle, and then you have little bits of information on the outside. And then the idea is, as you're having them take notes, and you're going to practice this today, hopefully you'll practice it with them, be concise. No long sentences, no super long, super long. Keep it brief, keep it quick. And then you can also add extra connectors. They can connect to each other or more details coming out of these bubbles. You can keep adding to the graphic organizer. Really good for visual learners. Really good for visual learners. So the key is here. There's organizing their stuff. There's organizing their tasks. This area is organizing the information that they take in on a daily basis. For instance, Venn diagram. If you're in a classroom and you're studying the difference between two different athletes or two different societies or two different types of art, then you would go ahead, turn your paper sideways and do it right there. Actually take the notes in that form so that it's already there when it's time to write a comparison paper on these two different societies. You already have it set up what they have alike and what they have that is different and unique. Alrighty, so a little bit on that. And now, just to give you an idea of what they look like in case you've forgotten over the years a timeline, they can just turn their papers sideways and go left to right. Cornell notes, beautiful because you can actually fold them. These are actually the ones that are most popular at the end of the year. When I ask my students what SFS thing did you stuck out to you the most, one of the biggest things is 2-column notes because they use them in math, English, civics. You can use them. You can use them everywhere. Venn diagrams, again, you can have 2 circles, 3 circles, whatever, as long as you have an area where they all connect. And then 3-column notes, adding that 3rd column so that you can add your critical thinking skills there, put your opinions, how you feel about it. Okay, so in case you've forgotten learning styles, there are a lot of different types. So we're going to talk about the ones that Howard Gardner put up. So I'm going to play a little video to just kind of put it in a cartoon effect for you. They're all different types, and there are some that only group it into 4. We're looking at the ones that break it into 9 different groups. And here's just a little video. I want you to see if you see yourself in here at all.
In 1983, American psychologist Howard Gardner published a book with a theory that there are 9 types of intelligence. To understand this theory, let's consider the problem of the Council of Newtown, who wants to build a bridge over the dangerous railroad tracks. But there is strong opposition from some citizens who don't like change. Despite the demonstrations, the council agrees to go ahead and then hires a team of 9 experts from Smarts & Co. to get the job done. Let's introduce each one of them. Miss Picture Smart played a lot of hide and seek when she was young, and she loved puzzles. She has lots of imagination and ideas about shapes. Her job in the project is to create the plans, make the designs, and build a prototype. Mr. Nature Smart loves trees, and he has great ideas of how to minimize the impact of a bridge on the environment. He started thinking of these issues ever since the first time he went summer camping with Dad. He developed a passion for all living beings. Mrs. Number Smart is a nerd. She always was. In the playground, she was already calculating the sand buckets needed to build the biggest castle. In high school, she was the chess master and everyone was so proud of her. She will calculate the costs, study workers' safety issues, and estimate the raw materials needed. Her concerns are the budget, resources, and risks. Mrs. People Smart arranges a town meeting and goes out to invite all the citizens to come. She was always good with people. As a kid, she spent most of the time outside with her neighbors. As a teenager, her mom explained to her that most people mean well, even if they have trouble showing their feelings. Today, everyone loves her, and she does a great job convincing everyone, even the most outspoken opponents. Miss WordSmart has been keeping a diary since she was young. In maths class, she wrote poems, and during field trips, she didn't talk to others, but instead studied the travel guide. For the big town hall meeting, she writes a convincing speech, filled with hard facts, big feelings, and good metaphors. Ever since he was young, Jimmy LifeSmart knew how to talk and entertain. Today, he shows his skills on the stage. He starts his speech with a personal story about his cat that once got lost on the train tracks. Then he delivers all the arguments with so much passion that all citizens can only agree with the plan. Miss WordSmart is delighted to see the impact of her work. Now, as construction starts, Mr. Body Smart gets ready to get things done. Even the children are inspired by his power and want to help. During the breaks, he plays football with his team, which is fun and teaches him balance skills he later can use high up in the sky. Madam Self-Smart knows a lot about feelings, our fears, joys, and angers. She learned this from her own past where she started to reflect on herself. But she also reads a lot about feelings and talks to her friends about their emotions. During the construction, she is the positive force, motivates those that feel down, and solves tensions that can come up when we collaborate. While everyone is busy finishing the bridge, Mrs. Music Smart writes a song for the grand opening. She has loved music ever since she started playing the piano. Later, she moved on to hip hop and jazz dance. At the opening ceremony of the bridge, she and her band performed the song. It was a fantastic team effort from all 9 of the Smart & Co. In 2016, Gardner said that he is considering adding pedagogical intelligence, or Teach Smart. What do you think? Is he right or wrong about these types? Or are IQ, EQ, or other forms of intelligence better classifications? Please be Teach Smart and tell us what you think about intelligence theory in the comments below.
Alrighty, so hopefully you were able to see
In 1980,
yourself or your child in that. Now, your learning style may be completely different than their learning style, right? And that's totally okay. We're not all going to be the same type of people. The problem is when we're trying to push our learning style on our kid who has a totally different learning style. So I wanted you to first think about what yours is, and now what I want you to think about is what is your child's. Are they the same? Or are they delightful and walking hand in hand together, or are they on two opposite sides of the spectrum? And when you're telling them how to go about studying or preparing, are they totally going against what is natural for them? So if you don't know, that's okay. That's all right. We have attached in your booklet an entire quiz. It's a learning style quiz, same one that I give my students in my classroom based on Howard Gardner's 9 intelligences. Just have them go through the questions, or maybe both of you do. Maybe you both do it and you put your answers there next to each other and see how alike or how different you are. And then the next step from there is study based on your learning style. Take notes based on your learning style. Interpersonal people, they want to be with others. They want to, it's great to have groups and go back and forth and talk about, does this answer make sense? And go back and forth, back and forth. Groups are great. But then in a classroom, you can see the opposite of that where they don't want to be in a group. And as soon as they're in a group situation, they feel stress, which directly affects their ability to learn. So some are better off on their own. Some are better off in nature. Some are better putting music. Some are better just reading it. Some are better hearing it. Some are better acting it out. You just need to spend a little bit of time trying to figure out what lane they're in, and it may be more than one. And then if you guide their learning, their studying towards that, it really does help tremendously. Yes, I think we would agree that it is, especially for middle schoolers who may be unused to trying to manage and time plan because maybe normally you do it for them and now they're trying to figure out how to do it themselves. They have so much to balance, correct? They have their academics, they have their TV, their video games, their internet, whatever they do on social media on a regular basis. Then they have to squeeze in some time for you, their family, and certainly time for their friends. Then they also may have chores. There are certain responsibilities that some students have when they go home, and that needs to fit into their daily routine as well. Then what about their sports and their exercise? Whether it's just something they do to feel good, to take a walk or just riding their bike or something, taking a swim, or maybe it's organized sports, which can require an even larger chunk of their time. And then there's their community, their culture. Maybe there are different cultural and community events that they enjoy being a part in and enjoy participating in, and they have to make time for that as well. I love this quote by Mahatma Gandhi: by education, I mean an all around drawing of the best in child and man. You have to have it all. You can't just pick one and ignore all the rest. You have to find a balance for it all. So let's start with this one. They need to learn how to prioritize. So we're going to talk about that. Many times they see the things they have to do, but they have no idea how to prioritize it all. And they need to know how to do that. Then we need to talk about how to go about listing. When I have my students list their assignments and start working on what it is to manage your time, starting with managing your tasks, first I have them just start by writing out what you're going to do, whether it's going to be on a digital platform or an old-fashioned calendar like I love to use, but track it, write it down. Then I have them go to the next step after a few weeks. Now start estimating that time. Don't just write the task, write next to it when it's due and how long you think it's going to take you to do it. In order for them to track and figure out what to do when and prioritize, they need the date. You need the due date next to it. That's the next level. First, start them listing it, then have them list the due dates, and then have them go and estimate how much time do you think you're going to spend on each item so that you can start deciding whether you're wasting your time or whether you're using it efficiently. If you have booked 20 minutes to do 5 problems and at the end of 20 minutes you haven't done the 5 problems, we either need some help, you need to go in for a little more instruction, start reviewing a video, or maybe just stop wasting your time. All right, next thing. This is a little three-fer here that we're going to learn today. Chunking, reward yourself, and then you get right back to work again. You chunk it, you do it, you reward yourself for doing it, give yourself that break, enjoy that celebration, and then when your productivity is back up there, you go back to work again. So that's another thing that's fairly new to them because some students get into the mindset that when they're working, they have to go sit for 4 hours straight and never move. That is normally a killer. It kills their productivity. Most of our students, let's be honest, most adults, staying tuned for more than a few minutes is difficult. Working for 2 to 3 hours at a time with no break, it does not work for most students. Their productivity starts going down within the first 15, 20, sometimes 30, depending on, what your tolerance is. And then you're just spinning wheels and wasting your precious time. So all of these things put together help them balance all the things we just saw in the last slide. They need to take what they have and decide when to use it, what's going to go first, and how much time I'm going to put on it. Another really great skill for time management is what some people use called backwards planning. They take one time, all of this needs to be done by then. Say it's bedtime for a student by 10 o'clock. Everything needs to be done. So then you back up those times using the same skills. List what you have to do, estimate it, and prioritize it. Because once this time comes, whatever's done is done. So whatever is high priority needs to be at the top of the list. Okay, so that gets us started with that. Now what I want you to do is dig in really deep because we can really figure out where they're wasting time once they write it down. Once they see it with their eyes and we see it with ours. So right in your packets, you should have this wheel. And what I suggest you do with your student is sit down with them. You can either pretend to be your kid right now and fill it in the way you think they would fill it in from what you observe, or you could go sit next to them and have them go through each category and have them tell you the amount of time. Sometimes this is a big truth teller. At the end of the wheel, once it's colored in, some of my students are shocked to see that the majority of their 24 hours was spent on a video game. The majority. Some are amazed because the majority of their day is academics and they don't make any time for family or friends or to do anything healthy outside. So looking at it can help us put it into perspective and see what really needs to be adjusted. Where are we wasting time? Where are we not putting enough time? And where are we putting way, way too much time? Okay, so I've mentioned chunking and the 3Ds or prioritizing a little bit. And my prioritizing, I use the 3Ds to teach it. So let's dig a little deeper into it. What I teach my students in Strategies for Success is that when you're listing your homework, you must prioritize. You got to figure out what you're doing and when. You just have to. If you don't have any priorities, you're just going to start with whatever you wrote down first, and that may not work for you. So you want to start with looking at all three and then use these 3 things to determine them. 1, your desire. If you can think of something right now that you love to do, When's the last time that somebody had to beg you to do it? Maybe as an adult because we don't make enough time for ourselves. But kids, when's the last time that you had to force them to do something that they love to do? You don't. So if there's a really, really high desire, I mean, when's the last time you had to force them to play video games or force them to do a TikTok, right? Force them to get on their phone? No, they love to do it, so they always make time for it. Now, if they can figure out where that is as far as their task, if you love art, and you have an assignment in art, then maybe make that further down on the list because that's your reward. You get to do your art and you love art. So you're always going to be happy to do it. Put it near the end. Make it something to look forward to. Don't put it at the top. Now, next thing, difficulty. These are the two things. If it's difficult, we want to push it off. If we love to do it, we want to do it first. No, absolutely the opposite. Our human nature tells us to do that, but we should be doing the opposite. If it is difficult, then the last thing your student should be doing is pushing it to the bottom of the list. That's the last thing. Now you're going to do your difficult Algebra 2 work at 10:30 when you're exhausted, tired, in a grumpy mood and ready to just wrap it up for the night. No, that's the opposite. They're setting themselves up for failure. So you want to encourage them that if the difficulty is high, move it to the top of the list. If the desire is high, move it to the bottom of the list because let that be your reward. And then what rules over both? Your due date. If it's due, we can't be concerned about how much you love it or hate it or how hard it is. You need to get on it and do it now because it's due. So those are your 3 Ds, and it helps them decide when to do what, helps them manage their time a little better. So now let's talk about chunking your time. So we have the 3 Ds. They have things listed out. They have the estimates. They have the times. They have the due dates. Now some of them are starting to feel overwhelmed because it's too much listed. Chunking your time is helping them realize that you don't have to do all of it at once. You need to take it, break it into bite-sized tasks, little doable pieces. Projects are majorly stressing for teenagers, middle schoolers, because they see this long list of projects or tasks for a project and they immediately get overwhelmed. Teach them not to look at all of it. Just put a piece of paper, put an index card over it, and just start at the top. What can I do? What are the 2 or 3 bite-sized pieces that I can do within the time frame that I allot myself? 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and do it every other day so that by that time your project will be done. But you can't do it all at one time. Just looking at it all together can be overwhelming. Okay, so now let's do this. When do you stop? You start working, you put it into bite-sized pieces, you decided I can do this, this, and this. When do you stop? When the time that you allotted for it is up, you complete the task, that's fantastic. Or when you realize that you are no longer paying attention, your productivity has dropped, you don't know what you're reading because you've read it 15 times and it still doesn't make sense, you need to stop. That's when you stop. So we're breaking it into bite-sized pieces, starting to do it, and then we stop when one of those 3 things occurs. And then once one of those 3 things occurs, our productivity drops, you're done with the task, or the allotted time that you gave it is up, then stop. Get up. Encourage your student to take a break. Much better, reward themselves. Do something that you love, something that makes you happy, but do something. And that's the 3-pronged routine. Break it into pieces, get to work, but know when to stop, and then take a break and reward yourself. And that, in a nutshell, is how chunking works. Well, we teach chunking because 1, it reduces procrastination. That's amazing. Because they don't have to think of, oh my gosh, it's so much, I can't deal with it now. Because they can look at a little piece, well, I could probably do that. It reduces their inclination to just put it off and procrastinate. It also avoids the feeling of just doing too much. When you look at a project and there are 15 things listed and on your mind, there are 15 things you need to do this minute. No, just look at number 1 and 2. That's not doing too much. That's just 2 things. That's not 15. All of that, those 2 things together will reduce their anxiety, which is major. You know that anxiety runs rampant in these middle school hallways. So anything we can do to reduce it, a positive thing. Well, of course, if their anxiety is less, they're feeling a little bit less stress and a little less pressure because they're not thinking that they have to do so much at one time. Then what does it lead to? Magically, yes, they actually get more work done They actually get more work done by doing it in little bits and pieces. Because what happens on the opposite side, they look at the long list, put it off. Look at the long list, put it off. Look at the long list, put it off. Now they have a missing assignment because they never got around to doing it because it always felt too overwhelming. Doing it in pieces allows them to have little mini successes. And that creates feelings of achievement and fulfillment, which is exactly how we want them to feel. Okay, so let's just do a little quick review that you can share with your students and make sure that they are following along with this process if this is where they need to work and they need to be better at planning and time management. First things first, we need to get them to record their tasks if they're not already doing it. They need to get in some habit of writing the list down, whether it's digital, whether it's on paper, but they need to start writing things down. Alrighty, next thing, once they've written it down and put the due date, they need to go ahead and start estimating realistic, yes, realistic times for completing each task and start listing that right there next to whatever it is that they've listed as a task. Then they need to use some prioritization using those 3 Ds. Is it something difficult? Is it something I really, really want to do? Okay, let me save that to later. It's difficult. Let me get to it now. Due date. Okay, right away. You have them start using the 3 Ds and saying it out loud, talking through it with you. Have them start tracking their time. They have phones, they have cell phones. They can set alarms to put that time that they've estimated right there and start recording or tracking their time to see if their times were realistic or if they need to mess around with them and fudge. Always allow a little more for science, or let me always allow a little more for this, or I don't need quite so much for that. Have them start tracking their time so they can hear a buzzer, an alarm, some type of alert to let them know when their set time has been up. And then start having them do that 3 prong process, right? Chunk it up, do it, and know when to stop, and then reward yourself. Take a break or reward, and then over and over again, it will actually lead to so much more done. All right. So, would you take a peek into your booklet, please, and see if you can find the page that's set up for 2 column notes? What I want to do is walk you through an interactive lesson with 2 column notes so that you can encourage your students to use it. Like I said, this is, for whatever reason, the most popular note taking skill out of all of my classes. This and webbing, the two of them are the ones that people tend to glom on and tell me that they're using in all other different classes, which is, of course, the goal. Learn it here, but then take it and use it out there. Okay, so you have yours to set up. And then here on the left side, I'm going to give you a list of questions. And this is what I want, what I have my students do. I give them really wordy questions. And then I have them take each one and break it down to just a few words. Take the great big long question, break it down to just a few little words, and then put it on the left side. That's how we set up our 2 column notes. Your questions or your main ideas on the left. And then on the right side, of course, we're going to watch the video and then you're going to put your answers. Definitely not going to put long sentences. You don't need to write it beautifully. It's just about jotting down the information, the answer to the question on the left-hand side. All righty. So once we do that, let's start going through the questions here. Let me take my camera off so you can see everything you need to see. Here are all the questions. And what I want you to do is take each one, take a few minutes now, go ahead and just pause the video. And when you're ready, when you have all your questions on the left side, and remember, try to keep it down to only 3 to 4 words for each question. Only 3 to 4 words, no great big long questions. The whole point of 2 column notes is to take a bunch of material and break it down so that you have a very quick way of referring to it and studying your notes. So it's easier to study, which means they just might study. All right, go ahead and do that now. Okay, so if you've released your pause, you're ready to go forward. Here is what your sheet looks like in your booklet. And hopefully you have questions that are similar to this. They don't have to be exactly like that, but I just hope you don't have a ton of words. Whatever way you put it, that's great, but you really don't want to use more than 3 or 4 words on the left-hand side. Make it as brief as possible. And then we're going to watch the video and let's see if you can get your answers for these questions on the right side.
I wish somebody had told me these things when I was a student the first time. It would have been a lot easier.
Dr. Marty Lobdell is a psychology professor who created a course on college study skills. He realized that many students had issues with proper studying and made it his mission to create a course that allowed students to learn to study efficiently and effectively, taking them from average students to A+ in a semester's time. In this video, we'll go over the first 4 rules for studying smarter, not harder.
First rule, the moment you start to slide, you're shoveling against the tide. What you need to do is what? Take a break. And here's what's cool about it. You can study for a half hour. It doesn't take a half-hour break to recharge your batteries. For most people, about 5 minutes.
We always dread sitting down to study for extended periods of time, but what you may not realize is that you are hindering yourself from studying effectively if you do this. As Marty Lobdell explains in his lecture, things that are reinforced we tend to do more of. Things that are punished or ignored we tend to do less of. This can transfer to how we study as well. If we dread sitting down to study for 5 hours straight, we aren't going to study nearly as well as if we break up our study into smaller chunks of time. According to London's Global University, 5 of the benefits of taking study breaks include improved memory, reduced stress, improved health, and boosts to your energy, as well as boosting your performance and creativity. The main point to take away from this is to make sure to break up your study time from longer periods to shorter ones with scheduled breaks. As a bonus, add on a well-deserved treat at the end of the study time. It'll help motivate you to be more productive during your allotted study time.
And this is where you go away, do something fun for 5 minutes. Call a friend, talk to a child, talk to a parent, a roommate. Enjoy some music. Do something you enjoy and actually say, this is my treat for having studied for 30 minutes effectively. Go back and here's what happens. Your efficiency is nearly 100%. Study a half hour, take a break. Study a half hour, study a half hour.
Creating a study area is one of the best ways to help you when it comes to studying.
Researchers asked the students, what's the biggest problem with studying? They said, we can't get into it. The university in question had primarily dorm rooms. One side bed, another side of bed, study area, right? In one room, you sleep, you groom, you talk with people, you socialize, you study, you snack. It's a multi-purpose room, and yet you're supposed to study.
As Marty explains, we have certain cues as people when in certain areas of our homes. By using a designated study area where all you do is study, you train your brain and yourself that this is the area where you study, and that's all it is used for.
In the Hawaiian dorms, all of the rooms had a gooseneck lamp. So the professor said, we're going to try a little experiment. Take that lamp, make a little sign and put it on it, study lamp. Use it only for studying. You don't dress by it, you don't have BS sessions by it, you don't snack by it, you don't clean the room by it, nothing. You use the other lights for all other functions. You're ready to go, turn on the lamp and start studying. The moment you lose your edge, 15, 20, 30 minutes later, turn the lamp off, get up and leave the desk. What you're training yourself to study while seated there. And it becomes increasingly automatic. You sit, turn the lamp on, and you're ready to go. It's like magic. The students who did that were 1 grade point higher the next term compared to the control group that didn't do it. 1 grade point simply by creating a study area.
Not sure how to create a good study space? According to Joyce University, make sure your study area is well lit, has noise and light control, as well as some personal touches that will help motivate you when you don't feel like studying. These are some of the best ways to create a study environment that keeps you motivated and happy.
Alrighty, so hopefully you were able to fill in your 2-column notes and put your answers over there to the right. What I would have students do after this is if I wanted them to get even more, if they didn't have enough over here, I'd have them go back, listen to it again, and then layer. Take another color and then add extra details in every single box over here showing that they can or showing that they had more information. And that's just a technique I use called layering. So Encourage them to take notes like that. Write the questions on one side as opposed to looking at a list of long questions and getting overwhelmed. Have them take the questions, break it down, just a few words, 3, 4 words, and then go through and pull whatever answers they can out of it. Okay, so now what you have is this slide up, which is a graphic organizer, webbing, one of my favorite ways to take notes. And I want you to practice this method. So again, you can show your student. They can sit in class, create this little format, and then take notes based on that, as opposed to putting sleep tips in the middle and then right over here, sleep tip number. You don't need to write all that. They don't need to write all that. All they need to do is very briefly and concisely answer each question, or answer or put the different bits of information in the web. And they can do that during class when they're listening to a lecture, when they're studying from a video, when they're reading from a book. They can do that. And it's a very quick way to take down notes. And especially helpful for people who are visual learners. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and find this sheet, if you would, in your packet. Find your sheet that looks like this in your packet. And then here's the video to follow along.
Most of you undo good studying by not sleeping adequately. Some of the latest work on REMing, we're not sure exactly how, but there's something going on. It involves the hippocampus. It involves the storage from a transitory long-term memory to a permanent, what we call consolidation. But we're getting increasing evidence that that consolidation process is dependent on rapid eye movement sleep, which if you're an adult happens about every hour and a half once you fall asleep. If you're not getting a good night, typically around 8 hours, you're not getting enough REM. What you've studied doesn't become permanent. And I can tell you there are studies that show simply by getting better rest, some students improve markedly in their performance because their brain now stores it a lot more efficiently.
Without a good sleep, your brain cannot function properly and will not be able to absorb the information you are trying to learn.
By the way, if you know anybody with sleep apnea, biggest thing they'll tell you is, I can't remember anything. My brain's shot. It's like my memory's gone. Yeah, it is, because your REMing isn't happening because you wake up so often and you can't consolidate and store permanent memories.
If you have trouble prioritizing sleep, Harvard's summer school has a few tips for you to try to get a more restful sleep. Try limiting caffeine close to bedtime, avoid electronic screens an hour before bedtime, and engage in physical activity 2 hours within your bedtime window. Make sure to establish a sleep schedule by going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time every day. It will help train you to get to bed. By prioritizing your sleep, you will help create a healthy routine that not only benefits your academic life, but other aspects of your life as well. Remember, dreams don't work unless you do. By creating a study routine that eventually becomes a habit, you'll be acing your academic life in no time.
And now we're just going to do a little quick breakdown of how to take this studying. Now we know what to avoid, the pitfalls to avoid. They need to make sure they get enough sleep. They need to try to figure out how to put notes together in a way that is suiting to their brain. It makes their brain happy to look at it again, makes it more inviting, using color, highlights, underlining, whatever they can do to make their notes pop. So let's put a few tips together. Basically, what is studying? It's just interacting with information. That's how I look at it. It is simply you are studying whenever you choose to interact with the information that you learn. That's it. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 10 seconds, but the more repetition, the more you interact with it, the more it stays yours. One of the keys that he was just talking about just a little bit on that previously before is to just make your notes pop. Whether it's once you find what style of notes you want to take, don't just have them taken in pencil. Encourage them to use highlighters and colors and underline and star and circle. Anything that makes it look more attractive to their brain makes them maybe want to look at it again, which is helpful. Okay, next thing, repetition, repetition, repetition. Have them talk out loud. No matter what their learning style is, even if they sit by themselves and do it, or if they sit in a group and do it, if they do it outdoors, if they do it while they're doodling, whatever. But the more senses you use, the better they'll be. Now, recopying is based on how their learning style is. Maybe recopy because you love to recopy because you love to write and that's your learning style. Maybe recopying for you is putting it into another format and listening to it there, putting it into a song or putting it to music or maybe a drawing or a chart about it. Find a way for it to fit, but interact with them and find a way to reproduce them in some type of way. Some people like to take notes in class, but then turn around and they like to type it, or they draw little pictures or symbols, whatever, that represent the information. Whatever they can do that has them interact with it, have them do it. Now, this is a way that they can do a quick study guides, quick little flashcards. They can do it old fashioned and do it by hand with, cutting up index cards, or they can go and do it digitally. They can go onto Kahoots, they can do Quizlets, they can pop right onto a Quizlet and put information in it and create their own quiz. They can go onto Kahoot and they don't even have to come up with the questions. They could, or they could just go into the quiz database and put the subject in, and it pops up questions. Anything from math to English to social studies, anything, Spanish. Just have them get involved in creating their own study guides. I know they get study guides at school, but when they are looking for the information and they're typing it in, they are interacting with it. And that's also a part of studying. So have them get involved on a different level with how they study, and they will definitely see a difference. Okay, now for maxing out the senses and how much to study, well, as much as you can. Like I say every day. If they ask me, I'd say every day. Every day. I don't care how much. It could be as little as 10 minutes. It could be as little as 5. It could be 3 minutes, but every day, often, often, often. It's the repetition that makes it key. It doesn't have to be long, ridiculous amounts of time, but it needs to be repetitive over and over again as many times as they can. They can sit on a bus on the way home and whip out flashcards and study their Spanish vocabulary. It doesn't have to be a lot of time, but it has to be routine, often and over again. Repetition is definitely the key. Okay, so as a quick review here, some of our study tips to go. We already know about chunking. We know about creating a dedicated study area. We want to make our notes pop. And then right here in the middle of the page, have them use mnemonics and acronyms, acrostics, little phrases, visual image, anything that they can do to bring their information to life. Have them do it any way that helps them remember. They can remember acronyms and acrostics. They've been doing it since elementary school. They can do it. They just need to make up their own for what they need to study. Just for a quick example, this WDDCMS is something that I use in my math classes that I came up with, and I make them stomp it out. You can kind of put it to a music like WDDCMS, and then we stomp it throughout the classroom. They're actively involved. I don't even teach them what it means before I teach them the letters. Once I teach them all of the letters, then we go back and say, this is what I want you to do for multi-step equations. If W, the whole side is on one side, then you have to deal with that first. You have to get that thing out of the fraction. D, you have double negatives, you got to deal with it right away. Next on the list, because we have to prioritize what gets done first, it has to be in order with equations. Then distributive property, need to deal with that. Okay, do we have like terms on the same time? Then combine those. Combine your like terms on the same side. M, do we have variables on both sides? Move all your variables to one side. And then S, do your solving. Do your two-step equations that you've been learning since at the end of elementary school. So they can come up with their own acronyms, their own acrostics. Just get them excited and doing it. And I think they would actually really benefit from seeing how they can come up with something, put it to use, and then be successful with it. Or they take a bunch of questions, look at them and think, and then start doing whatever they're reading, watching the video or reading the passage in the book that they're supposed to answer. Have them go backwards and read all of the questions, survey the questions, go through it, recite it the way we did with the questions in the 2-column notes. Have them recite it and then in their own words, brief words, so that they know what they're looking for before they watch the video or read the essay or read the excerpt. Then get them as actively involved in their studying as possible. Get them active and have them quiz themselves with their own materials, creating their own flashcards or their own digital games or their Kahoots or Quizlets, and then have them summarize. Because here's the key to learning. When you could take something you learned and say it in your own words, you got it. You know it's yours. If you can say it in your own words, you can do it. So have them teach you, have them explain it to you. and see if they're actually get stronger in how they're able to represent their thoughts and their logic. Okay, parents, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Hopefully, you didn't just sit and watch this all in one big blob, but hopefully, you were able to pick and choose what you needed to apply to your child, what you needed to learn to in order to share with your child. And I do hope that if I haven't already had the pleasure of teaching your child, that perhaps I'll get the pleasure of doing so in the future. Thank you so much. You all have a fantastic year. Take care.